Yes. Yes. Oh, wait, absolutely. Okay. No, I know. I can't find it. Yeah. No.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for attending the Committee of Adjustment meeting. I'd like to remind everyone as we get underway, this meeting is in person and online through Zoom and is being recorded. Everyone online will be muted with the exception of the committee members and staff. All comments and questions are to be directed through the chair from committee members, staff, and the public. I'd like to remind committee members you must speak into your microphone so everyone online and in person can hear you. Excuse me. For those attendees that are online, your video picture will not be displayed. You will be muted and will not be able to unmute yourself during an application that you have not requested to attend unless you raise your hand. At the beginning of each application, I will call the application forward. The owner or applicant in attendance may come to the table to your right to speak with the committee. This microphone is live and you must speak into the microphone. If the owner or applicant is online, you will be unmuted. The committee will ask for comments from the public during each application. Please provide your name and address for the public record. All comments and questions should be directed to the chair and only speak when it is your turn. If you are in person and would like to speak to an application, one at a time, you may approach the podium and speak. This microphone will be live. If you're on the video portion of the Zoom meeting and you would like to speak and your microphone is muted, please click on the raise button hand located on the bottom of your screen. Staff will notify me that you wish to speak. If you're attending by telephone and you wish to speak, please dial *9 to raise your hand, which will signal staff that you wish to speak. Once a decision has been made concerning your application, you are welcome to leave the hearing while the committee continues with the next application. Members in attendance today are Bruce Craig, Catherine Graham, Paul Veenstra, Todd Robertson, and myself, Jim Keogh. Our staff in attendance are Senior Planner Lindsay Lambert, Kyle Peel, and Secretary Treasurer Amanda Werner McKellar. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do any committee members have any changes?
I have none.
No.
No.
No, sir. Nor do I. So we'll need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Paul. That the agenda be adopted as circulated. Ready to vote?
Bruce, yes.
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 Yes, sir.
And I am also carried. The second item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from our May 28, 24 meeting. Do any committee members have any changes or suggestions they wish to make?
And none here.
Catherine, no.
No.
No, nothing to add.
Nor do I. So I need a mover and a seconder again. Moved by Todd,
Bruce will second.
seconded by Bruce. Moved by Todd, seconded by Bruce, that the minutes of the May 28, 24 hearing of the Committee of Adjustment be adopted as circulated. All in favor?
Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes.
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 And I am also carried. Is there anyone with a declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise, in any of our ones before us today?
And none here.
No.
No.
None here.
Nor do I. Keep going. Yep, so first application today is D13-2024-00125 River Road. Amanda, do you wish to give us the lowdown on it?
Yes. So the application is requesting permission to permit the demolition and replacement of the same size general footprint of an existing 2-unit non-complying motel building. The existing 2-unit building is 36.6 meters long and set back from the water approximately 20.1 meters. The proposal is to reconstruct 2 separate rental units in the same general location and replace the old decking with new decking. The reconfigured units will extend the footprint 2.4 meters further set back from the water. The resulting floor area will be slightly larger than existing. The existing motel structure is a non-complying structure that does not meet the minimum setback from the high water mark of the St. Lawrence River.
Okay, Kyle, do you want to give us your?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So as noted by Amanda, the applicant is seeking permission to demolish and replace an existing 2-unit non-complying motel type structure. The proposed structure and attached decking to be rebuilt will increase in size approximately 80 square meters, but will encroach no closer into the required setback than the existing structure. The CRCA have reviewed this application based on their consideration of natural hazards and have noted no concerns. Further, the application has been found to be consistent with the applicable policies and regulations of the land use planning documents of the township. As such, planning staff recommend approval of this application per the details and conditions enclosed within the staff report. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Amanda, have we any other public comments?
We just had comments from the Conservation Authority with no objections, and we've not received any further written public comments.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Is there anyone in the audience in attendance that wishes to speak to this application, or anyone on the virtual?
No, we're not seeing anyone in the audience or online looking to speak to the application.
Okay, committee members, do you wish to speak with, I believe you're the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll start with you, Bruce. Any questions for?
I have no real questions or issues. It looks like it's a win-win. Going to be replacing an aged structure, I believe a little further from the water, and going to incorporate solar panels, I believe as well. And I believe there's new septic system involved, if that's the case. So I'm good with this.
Okay, Catherine.
I have no questions or concerns.
Paul.
Yeah, as well, I have no concerns.
Todd.
Well summarized by Bruce, no, nothing additional to add.
Yeah, I agree with Todd. Bruce pretty well summed it up, so I have no questions either. So I guess we need a mover in a second. We need a mover and a seconder to move this application along.
Bruce will move.
Bruce moved, seconded by Catherine. Okay, moved by Bruce, seconded by Catherine, that application D13-2024-001 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. We're ready to vote.
Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes?
Yes,
Yes,
And I am also carried. Okay.
Well.
Second today is D13-2024-023821 Alina Lane. And Amanda, would you see if the applicant's here or whatever and read the purpose, please?
Yes, we just have the owner coming to the table here. So the application includes both the request for permission and a minor variance. The requested permission is to permit the expansion of the existing legal non-complying dwelling with respect to height and floor area. The existing dwelling is a legal non-complying structure with respect to the minimum front yard provision and the minimum setback from the high watermark of Little Cranberry Lake, part of the Rideau Canal. The minor variance aspect of the application is seeking zoning relief for the maximum lot coverage provision of the shoreline residential zone. The proposed development includes a new detached garage with a second floor for storage. The proposed detached garage requires zoning relief from the maximum lot coverage for accessory structures and the minimum setback from a private right-of-way.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Lindsay isn't here. So, oh, Lindsay, do you want to kind of summarize the report for us, please?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I just wanted to make sure that everyone can hear me okay.
No problem.
Okay, great. So this application is both a minor variance and a permission application, proposing an addition within the existing footprint of the dwelling, as well as in between the private right-of-way and the existing dwelling. Developments coming no closer to the water through the application, and through staff's review, no land use incompatibilities were identified. The proposed permission meets the policy tests of the township's land use planning documents, and the proposed zoning relief meets the 4 tests of a minor variance under the Planning Act. No objections were noted through the review of the Rideau Waterfront Development Review Team, being Parks Canada and the CRCA. And as such, staff recommend approval of the application in accordance with the conditions enclosed with the staff report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. Amanda, any other public comments received?
We just had the comments from the Rideau Waterway Development Review Team with no objections. We also had comments from the public, from Thomas C. Reiser on behalf of the Contrary Club, their neighbors, with no objections. And that's all the written comments we have received.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Is there anyone in attendance in the audience today or online that wishes to speak to this application? See anyone? So,
No, we will have no one online and no one in the audience looking to speak to it.
okay. Committee members, start with you, Bruce. Any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions or concerns. I'm good with this application.
Catherine?
I just have was the garage eventually staked? I visited the property somewhat earlier in the month, around June the 10th, and there were stakes around the proposed development related to the cottage, but not anything that cited the garage.
I marked it off about like a few days ago. I wasn't aware that we're supposed to sort of paint everything up, and I think it was maybe Jim or Paul. I can't remember who said maybe you should just get a can of paint and mark it up. So I did that last week. At any rate, it's the garage is sort of just on the road side of the cottage against the west property line, as close as we come, kind of 10 feet or whatever.
Okay, thank you very much.
Apologize that it wasn't done.
Yeah, Paul?
yeah, no concerns.
Todd?
I can confirm that I was there Sunday, I believe it was, and the garage definitely was marked out as stated by the applicant. So I have two questions, actually. One around the garage. Is the intent to park the vehicles within the garage?
Yeah, like our whole design concept is as we get older, we wanted the place to be accessible and, you know, in case of mobility issues. So as I think you guys that have been there have seen, it's sort of built on a hill, and we wanted to be able to come out from the entryway to the house on grade, you know, to the garage and park in the garage. As we get older, we'll be able to get in and out without, especially in the wintertime, without sliding on hills and dislocating shoulders, which I've already started to do when it's slippery there. So
I appreciate that, and it certainly speaks to any land coverage, lot coverage concerns that might be raised that you're asking relief from. And my second question is a little innocuous, but the Contrary Club comments, is that your neighbor to the left or to the right as you're facing?
So the Contrary Club is where we are is kind of like a peninsula that runs out into the lake, and the Contrary Club is the last property. And it was the first property that was in there that was purchased from the farmer back in, it was, I believe, in 1928 during Prohibition. The guys from Pennsylvania like to come up and drink in Canada, right? So that's how the whole thing came to be. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, I have no questions. The applicant was there when I went out and went over the area with me, so I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So if we're ready to decide, we need a mover and a seconder. Okay, moved by Todd, seconded by Paul. Okay, moved by Todd, seconded by Paul at D13-2024-023 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee, and we're ready to vote.
Yes.
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 And I am also carried.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, next on our agenda is D13-2024-024 165 Clark Drive. Amanda, do you want to confirm if they're here or online or whatever?
Yes, we just have the owner online, so they've just unmuted. So I will read the purpose here. The application is requesting permission to rebuild and enlarge an existing legal non-complying 23.4 square meter attached deck on the front of the existing dwelling. The existing attached deck is an L-shaped structure, and it is proposed to square off the deck to accommodate additional area. The proposed 10 square meter addition will increase the total area of the attached deck to 33.4 square meters.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Kyle, do you want to
Thank you.
report?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So as noted by Amanda, there was an existing attached deck, which was an L-shaped structure. So it's a pretty straightforward ask in this case. They're looking to square off the existing structure, which will increase the deck area by 10 square meters to a total of 33.4 square meters. The CRCA has noted no concerns with the application, and it has been found to be consistent with the applicable policies and regulations of the land use planning documents of the township. As such, planning staff recommend approval of this application per the details and conditions enclosed within the staff report. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Kyle. Amanda, is there any other public comments that we've received?
No, we just received comments from the Conservation Authority and they had no objections.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience here or virtually that wishes to speak to this application?
No, we have no one online and no one in the audience looking to speak to the application.
Okay, Bruce, have you got any questions on this one?
No questions or no issues. It looks quite straightforward, and if I owned the place, I'd want to do it too, so it's fine.
Okay, good. Calvin?
No questions or concerns.
Paul?
Yeah, no questions.
Through you, Chair, I do have a question for the applicant.
Yes.
When I did the site visit, it looked like there was a space where there was an old walkway that was also denoted by the same markings as the as the proposed new deck. And so I just wanted to confirm that that particular area is not part of this application. It looks like it runs used to run on the south side of the house back up to the driveway area. So through you to the applicant, can you confirm that that's not part of this application?
Can our applicant, I think he's online there. Can he hear the
Yes.
question?
Can you hear me?
Yep, sure, go
Yes,
ahead.
I confirmed. I was just showing the existing walkway that wasn't accounted for. So just showing the existing structure as well as showing the new with those staking.
Great, thank you very much. That's, I have no other questions and no other concerns.
No,
Thank you.
and I didn't have any concerns either. So we got a mover and a seconder. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Paul. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Paul, on application D13-2024-024 be approved, subject to the conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. Ready to
Bruce?
vote?
Yes.
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 And I'm also carried. So next on our agenda is D13-2024-025-11B Halstead Bay Lane. Amanda, can you read the purpose of the application, please?
Yes, and we just have the agent online for this one. So the application is requesting a permission to expand an existing legal non-complying dwelling. The existing dwelling is proposed to be demolished and replaced with a dwelling with a larger size, footprint, and height. The existing dwelling is illegal non-complying with respect to its setback from Halstead Bay Lane, a private right-of-way. The existing setback from Halstead Bay Lane is 1.8 meters, and the proposed setback is 4 meters. The subject property is zoned rural residential and floodplain. Minor variance application A 2016-015 was approved in 2016 to permit an attached deck to be constructed at a minimum setback of 3.3 meters from the adjacent right-of-way.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Lindsay, would you like to give us your report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So as noted in the intro to this application, the legal non-complying aspect of the property is with respect to the dwelling and its distance to the existing right-of-way. There is a proposed expansion of the existing dwelling in terms of its floor area, size, and overall height. Through the application, the proposed setback to the right-of-way is improving from the existing being 1.8 meters to the proposed being 4 meters. No concerns were noted through the technical review in terms of comments from the CRCA. No comments from the public have been received to date. Staff's review has concluded that the proposal meets the policy test of the township's land use planning documents, and therefore we recommend approval subject to the conditions enclosed with our staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Amanda, were there any other public comments?
No, just the comments from the Conservation Authority with no objections, and no further written public comments have been received.
Thank you. Is there anyone in attendance in the audience or virtually that would like to speak to this application? Thanks.
No, we have no one in the audience and no one online looking to speak to the application.
Okay, thanks. Committee members, any questions?
No questions, and as our planner noted, the new structure will be further back from the right of way, so that's a plus, so I'm good with this app.
Catherine?
I have no questions about the proposed house. The proposed garage would be just simply subject to normal building permit processes. Through you, Chair, to the planner.
Through you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. It's been reviewed for zoning compliance through our review of the overall application and has been found to be compliant. So it would go straight to a building permit.
Thank you. I have no concerns.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, no concerns.
Nothing to add, no concerns.
No, I have nothing to add either. So. Yes, we're need a mover and a seconder again. Moved by Paul, seconded by Todd. that application D13-2024-025 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. And we're ready to vote. Bruce?
Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
I am also carried. Okay, next on the agenda is D13-2024-026 391,000 Island Parkway. Amanda, can you read the purpose of the application?
Yes, we also have the agent here as well, if you have questions. So the subject application is requesting a minor variance to permit a 30.1 square meter enclosed porch addition onto the existing 60.8 square meter dwelling located on the property. A minor variance was approved in 2017 to permit a 15.9 meter water and front yard setback for a new dwelling. The proposed front yard and high water mark setback of the enclosed porch addition is 16 meters.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Lindsay, do you wish to summarize your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you. So through this application, the proposed addition is not encroaching within the existing water setback that was established through the previous minor variance for the dwelling. No land use incompatibilities were identified through staff's review, and staff's review of the proposal against the existing and applicable policy tests of the township's land use planning documents. We were satisfied with that review. 2 letters of support were received from the neighbors of properties on either side of the subject property. No objections were received in terms of comments from the CRCA, and therefore staff recommend approval of this application for minor variance in accordance with the conditions enclosed with the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Or Lindsay, Amanda, any public comments?
Yes, so we had comments from the Conservation Authority with no objections. We had comments from the St. Lawrence Parks Commission with no objections. We also received written public comments from Brad and Natalie Gallia and Joe and Lucy Powell, both neighbors, with no objections. And that's all the written comments we have received.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Is there anyone in the audience in attendance today, virtually, that wishes to speak to the application?
No, we have no one in the audience and no one online looking to speak to the application.
Okay, committee members, any questions for the applicant?
No questions. As with one of the previous applications, if I own the property, I'd like to have a little porch there too, so I'm good with it.
Catherine?
No concerns or questions.
Paul?
No, I'm good with this application.
Todd?
No concerns or questions, and I will note that upon reviewing it, it looked like the area where the proposed addition is going to be is already disturbed ground. So I think that in fact, it will be an improvement to the actual property in terms of water management and all that sort of thing. So no concerns.
Yep, I haven't either. So you need a mover and a seconder.
Bruce will move.
Moved by Bruce, seconded by Catherine. That application D13-2024-026 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. Ready to vote?
Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am also carried.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next on our agenda is D13-2024-027 511 Lower Oak Leaf Road. Could you read the purpose of the application, Amanda, please?
Yes, and we have the owner online as well if you have questions. So the application is requesting minor variances to allow the construction of a covered porch that is proposed to project 3 meters from the full width of the front of the existing dwelling. Variances to reduce the setback from the center line of the local road and the setback from the front lot line are required to allow the construction of the covered porch.
Thank you, Amanda. Kyle, would you like to give us the township's recommendation?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So for this application, the existing dwelling is a compliant structure. It meets the required setbacks from the center line of the right-of-way, as well as the front yard setback. Through the proposed addition, the addition is non-compliant with the required setbacks, thus requiring some relief. In general, the ask is relatively straightforward, and the application has been found to be consistent with the applicable policies and regulations of the land use planning documents of the township. Further, we received no objections through our technical circulation. As such, planning staff recommend approval of this application per the details and conditions enclosed within the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Amanda, are there any other public comments received?
No, we just received the comments from the Conservation Authority and no further written comments have been received.
Okay, is there anyone in attendance in the audience or virtually that wishes to speak to the application?
We have no one in the audience and no one online looking to speak to the application.
Committee members, anybody have any questions for the applicant?
No questions, just an observation. I'm looking at a photograph of the partially completed structure and note that it's not nearly as close to the roadway as the old cheese factory building that's on, I believe it's the east side of the house. So, no, I have no issues.
Catherine?
I made the same observation and have no questions.
Yep, Paul?
Yeah, no, I have no issues.
Yep, Todd?
Nothing here.
Nope, nor do I. So I need a mover and a seconder. Kate, Paul, and Catherine. Your order. Moved by Paul, seconded by Catherine, that application D13-2024-027 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. And we're ready to vote.
Bruce, yes?
Catherine, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am also carried.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, the next one is on the agenda is D13-2024-0291 Whirlpool Island. Amanda, can you read the purpose and let us know if the applicant's here?
Yes, I believe it's the owner that is here. Okay. So the application is requesting minor variances to reduce 30-meter water setback for a sleeping cabin and permission to expand the existing legal non-compliant marine facility to include a wave attenuator structure and additional support structure for the marine facility.
Okay, Kyle, do you want to give us the township's view on things here?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So it's my understanding that with this application, the sleeping cabin and the marine facility structure were constructed initially without the required permits or approvals. And through an enforcement tour completed by the building inspectors, the structures were discovered. The applicants subsequently then completed a pre-consultation submission. Through some back and forth with staff and the CRCA, a location in which the sleeping cabin would be supportable for staff and would be compliant with the CRCA's natural hazard setbacks was determined. As such, due to the size of the island, there's nowhere sort of on the island that would be compliant with the required setbacks. So ultimately, we did come to a location which is supportable for staff and the CRCA. In terms of the marine facility structure, again, it's my understanding that it is required to protect the existing boat port and the existing boats on site due to the location of the island being close to the center of the channel. As such, staff have no real concerns with this application. Ultimately, the application has been found to be consistent with the applicable policies and regulations of the land use planning documents of the township. And as such, planning staff recommend approval of this application per the details and conditions enclosed within the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Amanda, were there any other public comments that you received?
No, just the comments from the Conservation Authority with no objections.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience today or virtually that wishes to speak to the application?
We have no one online and no one in the audience looking to speak to the application.
Committee members, any questions for the applicant, please?
I'm confused. I I understand that in this application for the sleeping cabin, that the building department measured the overhang of the roof when measuring the square footage of the building, and I'm not familiar with that, not sure, is that done for all structures, Kyle, do you know?
It's a bit more of an Ontario Building Code question, so I can answer to the best of my ability, but it's not something I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Well, it's something I deal with, but not something I review based on. So it is my understanding that for bunky structures, the overhang is required to be calculated. I can't really speak to other structures.
Okay, another couple of comments and questions. The Conservation Authority, I think one of their sticking points was, I think, mention of the floodplain, but when we were on site, I noticed that the bunkies located several feet on solid rock above the water. And so I'm curious about that and curious about how moving the structure back a couple of feet is going to do more good than harm, because I'm thinking that, there's going to be some surface disruption moving the structure back. And thirdly, was the Conservation Authority on site for a site visit?
So I largely can't really speak to a lot of those points because the floodplain mapping would have been the CRCA's comments, right? So I can speak to the requirement to move it from a township perspective. So the township zoning bylaw stipulates that any new development should maximize the proposed setback. And where that's not possible, the structure should be set back as far as possible. So when this was initially reviewed, it was reviewed, I want to say at about a 6-meter setback. So through consultation with the applicant and discussion regarding, what would be the justification for this being in the current location, the bedrock was taken into consideration. Ultimately, we do understand that, it is on bedrock and it's unlikely to have as major of an impact as it would be if it was built, closer to the vegetated setback, where there's natural vegetation, et cetera. So that was part of our justification for allowing it in its current location or permitting it at the, slightly reduced setback, because ultimately, looking at the island, we could theoretically argue that it should be set back in the very middle of the island, but we did take into consideration certain things like the bedrock that you mentioned, et cetera, which allowed us to be able to support it in the location which it currently is in. Whether or not the CRCA completed a site visit, I'm not entirely sure.
That's all. Thank you, Kyle.
Well, I share my colleague's confusion. And I'm wondering if by moving it back, you're not moving it closer to the vegetative element of the island. And you're certainly moving it closer to a tree that probably has to come down. So I'm just, was that taken into consideration when the recommendation was developed to move the structure back?
So I can't speak to sort of the CRCA's requirement and sort of why they determined the location to be supportable. It's my understanding that a lot of their ability to be able to request further setbacks has been taken away from them due to provincial regulations. So I believe their comments were that the structure has to be outside of the minimum erosion and floodplain hazard setbacks, which I believe has been met with this application. Regarding sort of the specific reasoning, I guess I can't fully speak to that.
Okay, I appreciate that, Kyle. I guess having seen the structure where it is now, I think from sort of a sensible point of view, I don't see the sense in moving it 2 feet just for the sake of moving it 2 feet. I mean, if the water goes up so that that structure is flooded, we're all in huge trouble, right? So these are recommendations from the CRCA?
So they are recommendations, but ultimately the CRCA can determine whether or not to issue a permit, right? So if we don't have the CRCA on board with an application, then we can go ahead and give approval at the committee stage, but ultimately the building department won't be able to issue a building permit until the CRCA has first issued their permit. So it's sort of a requirement that we get sort of all parties on board prior to bringing something forward at the committee. So ultimately, theoretically, staff could have went against the CRCA's recommendation and said, no, we're fine with it in its current location. But then we get to the building permit stage and the building department wouldn't be able to issue a permit if the CRCA won't first issue their permit.
That's helpful. Thanks very much for clarifying that. I guess we still don't know if the CRCA visited the site. Perhaps the applicant knows if the CRCA actually visited the site.
They
Through the chair.
didn't come the day that they were scheduled to come with all of us. And they declined, with the phone call, an internal phone call we had, they declined, making the site visit. They just had, I think the comment was they had not bigger fish to fry, but more important things
Can I
going on.
intervene for a second? And I just like it brought up that I think it'd be a year coming maybe this fall. As a committee, we had no problem with the Cataraqui if they just wanted to agree with something, whether they were there or not. But if they put stipulations on, we as a committee, and we sent that back through to the township, if they weren't there, it's pretty hard for them to object. I think I've got that right. All of us. That was last fall. So I'm really concerned. I believe it's Emily Sue that usually does these. If she wasn't there to look at it, because I would state that any person that give that any logical thought can see no reason, which I think 5 of us are pretty logical, and we've seen some of us hundreds of these, what purpose it does to move it. Plus the fact I'm really concerned because I built a lot of properties or buildings and I never measured to the eve on anything. Like, honestly, Kyle, like you can speak to this. Has that been something, we don't do that on a house? And I know that it used to be before it went metric, a 10 by 10 building, that was the building, not the overhang, could be built without a permit. And to my knowledge, it still can, only it's metric now. So what is it, 108? And I think this building actually qualified that it didn't even need a permit. So I think we're all of us, that's why I'm speaking up ahead of all. We're all kind of confused with this. We don't measure the overhang. I said that would be, if we could sell the overhang on our house and you're selling it by the square foot, it would add quite a bit to our house. So it makes, like, it just didn't seem to make sense to any of us. Anyway, Paul, do you have something to add?
Yeah, no, I have no concern where the building's located. I would support it. And no concern with the breakwater as well.
Oh,
Yeah, nothing to add to the comments of my learned colleagues.
well, I didn't see any problem with any of them anyway, but I guess, I don't know what more we can do today other than go ahead and approve it as it's presented, I guess. Okay, we have,
Well, I would have. I think it's important that we stick to our proposed principle that the CRCA visit sites that they have a disagreement with. So I would propose that we defer that part of the application, not the water structure, but the sleeping cabin, until the CRCA has actually visited the site. Because if we approve it, that's one thing. Obviously, the owner will get the permit required. But I think that there's sort of a couple of principles here, at least, that we need to adhere to. So that would be my proposal, that we, if it's possible, we split our deliberations on this application into 2, one for the water structure, one for the sleeping cabin, and dispose of them separately with, in my view, the right course being to defer the application for the sleeping cabin.
And I would add to that, I'm sure,
yeah, go ahead.
if the application cannot be split, then the other option is to defer it entirely until the Conservation Authority would do the required site visit. And I'm just curious what the applicant's thoughts on that are.
Well, I'd like to get it passed, just so it's usable, since we only, it's a short span here in the summer to use the island, but, yeah, it's up to the committee. I thought the 2.5 feet was ridiculous myself, as stated, but, you know, they have their rules, so if it's, when we did the staking, we did plus or minus based on people's thoughts. I likely can move, I think we actually, from the 75.9 meters, we station pointed, we have our own station point, so we stationed it. And I think they called for the measurement we give them roughly with a tape measure from, was the original measurement. I think they said they had to be moved in their comments 2.5 feet. I think now stationing it, I think it's got to be moved 14 inches to be bang on their measurement my GPS is within 4 millimeters. So I think if I moved it, I can move it the 14 inches without interrupting any of the sonotubes. I looked at it on the weekend. So I could pull it back. The posts that are with the overhang, we can bring them back on a 45, and so they won't be a footprint, as they say anymore. They'll be 45, and I can also pull that whole structure back the 14 inches required on the sonotubes.
Catherine, go ahead.
Well, I find this remarkable, but if that were to occur, would it be speculation that the CRCA would accept your measurements? Since they've been asking for the 2.5 feet?
I think they already did once I paid my $445 for my permit fee. I think they, in the words, they basically, by their letter that I read, that as long as I moved it well, they said 2.5 feet, but they never stationed it. We actually station pointed.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you know, when I first did it, when we first did the application with Kyle, we did it with a tape measure.
Yeah.
So then since we went over and we've done it with GPS.
Bruce, you have another question?
I'd just like to make a point that in the good old days, the Conservation Authority attended our meetings. Not regularly, but you know, a few years back, they did attend our meetings, and then I guess COVID happened. So I'm suggesting when the planning department is in consultation with the Conservation Authority, I'm wondering what the committee's thoughts are on having the Conservation Authority member attend our meetings as they used to. We can talk about that after, or
No, I'm happy to go on record, since there's a virtual option to attend, if someone was available to attend virtually, in particular, as was spoken to earlier, to speak to where they have issues, not where they're just offering consent. I think if they have issues, if questions like this come up, or even if we know in advance questions may come up, if that's an option, obviously, I don't think there's any mandate, we can mandate them, but certainly would support a request.
Thanks, Tom. Paul?
Yeah, at this point, I would suggest approving it with the cabin in position. And it's so close that I'm certain that they can come to an agreement.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair that the Cataraqui, we had this issue before, made the request without looking at it. That's completely unfair to the applicant.
Okay, the only thing I would say then, okay, Gary, you have talked to them, and you think that the moving at 14 inches will do it?
Well, it'll suffice. They stayed at 2.5 feet based on a tape measurement. So then when we stationed it, it roughly is, instead of 30 inches, it's 14 inches.
So
To be the,
move it to satisfy.
yeah, to satisfy
Okay.
the north side.
Yeah. Okay, Todd, you have something else?
Well, I was just to follow up on that. Are we able to, in order to avoid delays for the applicant, recognizing the short season of usage, are we able to approve it to a maximum of 2.5 feet, or as mutually agreed upon with the Conservation Authority, something to that effect?
No. Well, I personally think that would be good. It would make a lot more sense than having to come in, and I don't know whether you'd have to break rock or whatever to put sonotubes in, you know, to move it back 4 feet or whatever. If they could be just shifted on them, I think that would be a pretty good solution. And we can argue with somebody at a future date about measuring buildings by the eaves, because it would certainly change the square footage of a lot of houses. But anyways, what, Kyle, have you something you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and through you. So I guess just the piece about the eaves, I just want to specify that it's the use of a bunkie that triggers the permit requirement. If this were just a storage shed, it wouldn't require a building permit, but a bunkie of this size, it's my understanding that regardless of the measurement of the eave, it would require a permit.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, I understand. Anybody else? Before we, no,
I like Todd's idea.
Yeah.
You know, we could approve it with the variable, so that if the applicant wants to move it to 14 inches, but if the Conservation Authority is not good with that, not sure how to word it, but that we'll go back to a mutual agreed.
Leave Amanda, how would we word this, girl?
Can you give staff just a second to talk about that?
Sure.
We'll figure that out because I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's permitted. Like generally with the schedule, like it's as per Schedule A. So just 1 second, let us talk about that. Perfect. And that's what our senior planner is also confirming, that you can't lessen the setback from how it's stated in the plot plan. So it has to be a measurement. And so if you approve it closer than what the CRCA and staff are recommending, if CRCA won't issue a permit, then this variance is done. So if the CRCA won't issue a permit, the applicant will be required to reapply for a minor variance to get the variance at the 2.5 or whatever setback it would be.
I sympathize with the short season for sure. But if this were capable of being resolved in the next 4 weeks, that would still give the. I just think that this is it's certainly a complex case, but I think that there's some necessary dialogue with the CRCA over a case like this so that we don't run into it again.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we don't sort of do it on the fly, not to suggest that we're treating this in a cavalier way. We're not, but I think that there are some principles at stake here, including the nature of measurements that are taken to be correct.
Yeah. Yes.
So if I pull it back, their recommendation of the 2.5 feet, can we just pass it and I'll just do it?
Yep. Yeah, we can.
Let's just do it. I know I'm with you guys 1000% on the common sense, and no one came to site to say, wow, if this is a floodplain, we're all in trouble. But I think for this, if it's possible,
Okay.
I'll move it to 2.5 feet. CRCA will be happy, and life goes on, and we can, and I can hopefully use it. It's sending some of my guys over for a day and shifting it back, and so it's, you know, it's worth that to me to be usable. But I totally agree. We all seen it.
Like, we're agreeable, I believe, to let you leave it where it is.
I honestly, I think that's the smartest and best decision. But I just, I think it's going to take a month to 6 weeks, and I've dealt with some of these agencies day to day.
Yeah.
And it's hard to talk to an actual person anymore and get a real person on site or a real face to talk to.
Yeah.
So if we're all here today and we can agree, I'll move it that 2.5 feet, and
okay. Well, I have nothing further to add. I think
If-
everybody else has pretty well covered everything, so.
I do I appreciate it. Yeah.
So to, I guess that's all the questions then. Right? If we're ready to decide, I need a mover and a second.
Yes, we just need everybody to confirm that you're in agreement with the applicant before we start the vote, just because people have tabled other votes, so.
I'm happy to withdraw my suggestion.
I'm fine. I think, however, this application aside, we should sort of draw some lessons from this and perhaps think of things that we may want to take up with the CRCA going forward, because we have a very willing and capable applicant, in my view, in this situation. But similar situations could arise that could be more difficult. So I think we need to get things resolved going forward.
I agree. My apologies to the applicant.
No, I agree too, but you know, in order to move it along, but in the future, I think we need to refresh their memory that if they're not going to, I hesitate to say rubber stamp, but if they have an objection or whatever is that's going to cause an applicant a whole lot of grief, they should be on site. You know, yeah, like the one out at Sealy's Bay, I was the one actually in there, and I was lucky he was there. And I said to him, I said, you better go get a paint can or something tomorrow, because there'll be a whole bunch more people coming and you're going to be sitting here for a month. Because, and once again, I was one that pushed that they be staked, that we can see what the hell we're building, right? So anyway, same with this case, and this isn't the first one that they didn't show up. It's pretty hard to make, oh, well, I guess just move this or do that if you're not on site. So hopefully in the future, we can, even if they're not at the meeting, that was a good idea, Todd, really, that they could be attended, just not, well, we haven't been an hour yet, that they could sit on Zoom, and if anybody, ourselves or an applicant, has a question for the Conservation Authority, they could answer. I think that would be fair. Yeah. Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder to move this application along.
I'll move, unfortunately.
Okay, moved by Bruce, seconded by Todd. That application D13-2024-029 be approved, subject to conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee, and we're ready to vote.
Yes, Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am also carried.
Get her done.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, last on our agenda today is D13-2024-02830 Wolf Island. So, Amanda, would you like to read the purpose of the application?
Yes, the application is requesting minor variances to recognize the existing setbacks of a 3.7 meter by 2.7 meter accessory structure and a 3.7 meter by 2.4 meter attached uncovered deck that were built prior to receiving planning approvals at a setback less than the minimum required 30 meters from the high water mark of Charleston Lake and the minimum 30-meter front yard provision of the island residential zone.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Kyle.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So as noted by Amanda, the applicants are looking to recognize existing setbacks for an accessory structure and an attached deck. Both structures are long existing structures. The applicants have recently bought the property and are looking to bring it into compliance with the zoning bylaw, thus this application. Based on staff's review, the application has been found to be consistent with the applicable policies and regulations of the land use planning documents of the township. And as such, township staff recommend approval of this application per the details and conditions enclosed within the staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Amanda, any other public comments?
No, just comments from the Conservation Authority with no objections and no further written public comments. And we do not have the owner or agent in attendance today.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Excuse me, is there anyone in attendance in the audience or virtually that wishes to speak to the application?
No, we do not have anybody online or in the audience looking to speak to the application.
Okay, well, seeing as how there's no one here, I don't know, I'll just ask the committee, have you, anything you wish to raise about this to be on record?
No, I have no issues or concerns.
Nothing?
No.
No.
No, nor do I. So I guess we need a mover and a seconder to move by Catherine, seconded by Paul. That application D13 2024 028 be approved, subject to the conditions as included in the planner's report and the decision of the committee. We're ready to vote.
Bruce, yes.
Catherine, yes.
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 And I'm also carried. So last on our agenda is other business. Do we have to wait?
Yes. However, I do have an update to tell you that we have been in contact. So we've got our director of finance going back and forth with the insurance company. And so they're looking at different options right now. So even as early as, I think it was yesterday, Marnie had mentioned that we are progressing further. We just want to get more options available and see what we can do. So next month, I should have an answer for you. So I will put it back on the agenda there. But it's moving. It is going. So I'm glad you guys just keep reminding me, and we're going to keep bringing it up until we get a full answer for you, but we are closer.
So what you're saying is don't fall or get hurt in the meantime.
And Amanda may be able to confirm my thought that back, I think in October, the committee made a recommendation to council regarding handicap ramps, et cetera, because we had to approve a ramp for a gentleman out on County Road 3 who was in a coma for, I think, 60-some days. And he needed a minor variance to put in a handicap ramp. And he later sought relief financially, and I'm not sure, I believe the township may have refunded his township fee, but we as a committee made a recommendation to township to offer relief for things of the handicap nature, accessibility, ramp and other items to ease the burden and not require a minor variance. And of course, all handicapped or accessible ramp do not require a permit from the committee, but or approval. But this particular one did, and I believe last week council passed that relief. I'm not sure.
No, so you are right. They did meet last week and discussed it. And the policies are going to be implemented into the zoning bylaw. So that it won't even have to come to you in a lot of the circumstances. But unfortunately, there was an issue with the newspaper and the advertising. Not our fault, their fault. But because of that, we had to change it from a statutory public meeting to a non-statutory public meeting, and we have to recirculate in September, which is the next available council meeting. So unfortunately, it will be another 2 or 3 months till that gets approved, but I think everything was looking favorable at the meeting, so. We can adjourn, yes.
That the committee of adjustment will adjourn, meet again. Oh, we'll meet again. There we go. I realize that, but they can hear me anyway. There's nobody here. That the committee of adjustment will adjourn to meet again at the call of the secretary treasurer. All in favor?
Bruce, yes.
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 I am too. Carried. You might want that. And you're going to forge my signature. I call it forging.